Hi, welcome to Women's Essence Magazine, the WEMAG show. And we're excited to have with us today Kristi Sullivan. She is a wellness advocate and self care expert. And actually, she started her company about a year ago, correct?
During this year, yep, during
Yeah, during
22.
this year, yes. So, Kristi, please share with us who you are, what you're about, and what you inspired to do.
Thanks, Claire. I'm happy to be here. And I also just enjoy really connecting with women and different groups and women around the world because I think they're changing the world. So in my business, I focus on self-care and wellness for women, but I also tie in something called human design, which people may not have heard of, but it's a way to assess your energetic blueprint. Because I think self care and wellness needs to really be customized and needs to be really essential these days. So I provide a platform for women to receive self care support, some coaching, yoga classes, and just connect with each other.
Now, how did you get involved with that? Like, how did you stumble upon doing self care and helping busy women to really focus on themselves and make it a priority on themselves?
That's a good question. And I want to first say that about 20 years ago, I took my first yoga class, and it was really transformational for me. And soon after, I started teaching yoga. And when I learned about what yoga can do for you, I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then from there, I just started to explore different modalities, things like Reiki and essential oils or tapping. There's really so much out there. And I'm just fascinated by things that are really not what I grew up with in the Western world. And I think that there's so many, again, modalities out there. It was something I wanted to learn about and then began to teach. And a few years ago, I really faced some challenges in my life that made me rely on self care to make sure that I kept myself healthy emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. So I think that's really when self care became sort of this mantra for me. And especially this year, as we're all now in quite a year facing stress and overwhelm, that I see self care as a way to really get you through that. And it also ties to the human design that I was trained in.
Yes, yes. I wanted to ask you about that actually. But first, can you share with us the challenges that you had to go through or you were going through and you overcame by helping yourself through self care for yourself?
Sure. Um, it started with my father having Alzheimer's, and although he lived with Alzheimer's, a slow progression for about 12 years, towards the end, and he did pass away last year, it was challenging and really hard for me and my mother, who were his primary caregivers, and just really going through that and knowing somebody is changing and mentally and emotionally, it was hard, and there were some tough things and decisions we had to make. I also at the same time was going through changes in my marriage
Mhm.
and myself and my husband, and I think I call it sort of an awakening of what did we want to be, who did we want to be, and what did we want our marriage to be, and could we really get our needs met, not really from each other, but from ourselves, and then be able to be present and show up in a way that we needed to. So I think healing some past traumas, that was a theme that I needed to go through. And then the last was a job change and a career change that I had sort of always wanted, but didn't anticipate happening in the way it did this year. But those three changes affecting family, marriage, and career were really quite major in my life and happened around the same time. So I see that as really a pivotal point for me in my journey.
Now, this all happened in one whole year?
In about two years, about
Two
a year.
years. Wow. Dealing with your father, your marriage, and your career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Wow.
know,
And learning about you, you were in that particular career for 20 years, correct?
yeah, I was in a career for 20 years. And it was time in my time, I think, to shift. And the universe sort of made that happen for me. And, um, everything that happens, and I know women face multiple challenges sometimes.
Yes.
It's not unusual, probably, and especially I think when our soul is looking for the transformation and the shift. Sometimes it's through hard things, and sometimes through multiple things. But
Hmm.
I feel like women are able to find within them sort of some of the answers of what do they need, or they talk to their friends or talk to support groups, or maybe just open to the therapy and other healing modalities to really
Hmm.
explore and move through what we need to in order to stay strong and get to the other side.
Now, I know for myself, I'm loyal to where I work and being there for so many years and having to just abruptly leave or whatever. That must have done something to you. Like, how did you deal with that? Something that because you gave a lot in the 20 years of that particular job you were in. I think we were in marketing, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
You gave a lot, and during that time, like you mentioned, you were dealing with your father's Alzheimer's and then your marriage. um how you as a woman, as a person, had to really focus and realizing what your soul really needed from you, and to really have that courage to make that change during all these time of your marriage and your father. Did fear come to play with it at all? You just like discarded the fear and just said, I gotta do this.
I definitely think there was fear. And one thing I want to point out and acknowledge is that I think we all, being human, really go through all the emotions, whether it's losing someone and going through the stages of grief, or the end of a marriage, or the end of a career. I think those emotions that we feel, like fear and grief, sadness, all are things that we naturally feel. How we move through them might be different, because I think, again, when you relate it to things like past traumas, or experiences that we may not even remember when we were younger, it definitely
Hmm.
triggers even subconscious or unconscious memories. So I think those feelings are normal. I definitely felt fear, I felt despair, I felt sadness and disappointment. And I
Yeah, because they
just,
were all losses. They were basically all something that you lost.
yeah, they were losses, especially, knowing I still feel my dad around me, but he was gone from this form that I knew. My marriage
Hmm.
changed. And again, my job that I um, sort of knew one day I would not be at, the way though it happened, I felt, again, loss, because the sense of identity that I held for 20 years
Yeah.
was suddenly different. And like I said, I think I just kept looking at, well, what am I doing for myself to make sure I'm okay? And what can I learn or uncover from these situations? I know it's hard sometimes when you're going through it to say, there must be a lesson in this or a reason it happened, especially when it's hard. But I think if you can stop and say, well, where do I go from here, and what can I discover, and maybe even change beliefs or programming, or just be open
Hmm.
to new experiences that are going to come from the loss.
And that's what really helped you. Now, tell me, how did you implement self care for yourself? How did you make that a priority for yourself during those times? Because it must have been hard, because I
Yeah.
know it takes a lot out of you to deal with someone who has Alzheimer's, and then to deal with the death of the person, and then to deal with trying to figure out your marriage, what's going on with your marriage, and then to make that career change. So basically, how did you say, Kristi, I need to make self care my priority right now, or else you're going to go crazy? How did you do that for yourself?
Well, first, I want to say that having some habits and things that I had already been doing before that was really important. So that's why I tell women, make sure that you're doing self care now, doing things. before the challenging times to get you through the challenging times. So
Mhm.
I had, for example, somebody who I was working with to do tapping. And so I continued to see her, and we would talk about things that were going on in my life. And tapping is a form, if you're not familiar with it, of
Mm.
different tapping at
Right.
points in the body. Um, Very effective for PTSD. So that was something that I was doing. I continue to do. Then I also made sure that I was like getting massages and things that
Mm.
I was probably doing beforehand, and making sure I didn't skip them.
Oh,
And if
wow.
needed
Good.
to, also up leveling that a bit. So going out in nature, taking walks, making sure I did some yoga or some breathing or meditation, things that I knew already were helpful. And even when I didn't feel like doing them, trying to fit something in every day and creating that what I call a daily ritual.
Every day. So you're committed to that every single day.
Something, yes. And some
Wow.
people like they get up and they run every morning, and that's their ritual. I think sometimes and it depends on your energy, who you are, but maybe even just having an intention to do something for yourself, and then decide what that is, and make room for it. Make sure that even if it's 5 minutes, that you do something and say, "Okay, I did something that's self-care for myself today." And acknowledge that, and not think it needed to be longer, or that you're not doing it right. We need to be kind and loving. Self love was a big part of the self care process, too.
And I know it was early this year, like you mentioned, you decided to branch off and start your company and self care and be an advocate for self care. Now, how did you begin that? How did you just get up one morning and say, okay, I'm gonna do this? How did it begin? I know you had yoga in the past that helped you to already self care, know what I'm doing. But did you have to take some classes? Like, what did you do for yourself to get your company started off the ground in self care?
Sure. Yeah. And I think everything is sort of like just following the steps along the path, even if you're not sure where they are or what the next or 10 are. So, what I ended up doing was first going on Facebook and creating a group where I wanted to post 30 days of self care, things that I was going to do, and also to inspire others to do their own self care
Hmm.
for 30 days. And it happened to be around the time, I think in February, around Valentine's Day is when I started it. And obviously, we were just before isolation and the pandemic, formally, I think, in March. But during that time, I started to focus on getting messages and inspiration. And for myself, just committing to something every day that was self care for 30 days. And then we went into isolation, and some of my yoga students were wondering if I had classes online. And then one day I actually saw an email from someone talking about an online membership platform. And I thought maybe I could marry the idea of yoga online and self care coaching online and some other wellness things that I had already been doing. And I decided to bring them together. So it's sort of like stepping out and noticing that all these things did tie together, and formally saying, well, let me start this and see where it goes. So I started the yoga classes, I started the coaching program. And then also I continued to do things for myself. And one of those things was taking a speaking seminar online to talk and create speeches, which eventually became some co-authored books that I wrote.
Right, I was gonna bring that up.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah, so one
Yes.
thing just started to lead to another. And in human design, it's called following the opportunities that arose. And that's what I did. I just lived that design of following opportunities for my energy that arose.
Right. Now, tell us about the three books you co-authored.
Yeah, so that was pretty amazing because, again, these are co-authored books, so they're collaborations where I'm one of 20 authors, and they are all under a theme. So the first book was on self healing, and my chapter was on self care, but it was 20 authors who came together early on in COVID to say, what can we provide as tools for people who are at home,
Hmm.
so that they continue healing. The second book was a someone I had met during this year, who decided to publish a book, Blessings and Wisdom from COVID. And when and that also was for me about my story of the life challenges I've had. And the third book was with Dr. Davia, who we both know, Transformation 2020, which was from our women's group, and women who were talking about their story this year and how they transformed. So very interesting opportunities that came up that I decided to pursue.
Now, with your book in self-care, co-authoring the book of self-care, you mentioned the word collaboration. So you collaborated with other authors. And do you feel that collaborating with other people also helps with self-care as well for yourself? Because it's not only you leaving to do everything yourself, you have the support. Would that be somewhere, in the same mix as, helping people, self-care, collaborating?
Yeah, and we talk about collaboration, and I think that's an important word these days when it's a way of connecting with people and helping to support each other.
Hmm.
So I've done collaboration in my business where I've actually had some of the people who have taught me healing modalities come on my coaching calls and talk to my clients about things that they can be doing. And as well, I do some online Facebook webinars to also invite people to come learn about these different modalities that I've experienced. Some other collaboration that I experienced this year also for self-care was um, interestingly two women's masterminds that I was part of that just happened to come up around the time of COVID, where one wanted to was a group of women wanting to support each other in business, and
Oh,
the five of us ended up talking in a series on different topics. So our business, we ended up coming together with five of us to do a speaking series and in the future a book. And another women's group that was just there to support us spiritually through this time. So to me, those are collaborations because it was
yes, they
all of
are.
us having a like-minded intention coming together.
Yes, like-minded attention to remain mentally healthy and physically healthy with self-care. And I always stress upon the fact that women being together, working together, talking together, doing things together, that's all part of self-care for each one of us. You're listening to one person's overcoming their challenge that inspires you. And you say, wow, we have similar situations and you did it this way. Here I am sitting down listening to you about how you dealt with, your father's Alzheimer's and your marriage and everything. And, these are some things that I'm going through myself right now with my father. He's been diagnosed with dementia, so it's kind of tough. And I feel like I'm alone in this. So listening, it's so helpful when you're hearing other people's perspective and working together and collaborating, helping each other out. And that is awesome. So I know that you're planning to also write your own book, I believe, or co-author another book, correct?
Yeah, actually, it's another co-authored book, and it's along the lines of power of women and how to encourage women to find their confidence and
Oh, that's awesome.
inside out. So I'm talking about self-care. Another woman will be talking about mindset. Another about fashion, looking at your appearance, and a fourth around speaking, and the fifth around goal setting. So it really ties together sort of a what you would call like a self-care retreat in a book.
Oh, that is so good. Because of COVID, we can't really do actual retreat, but the book will be a great self-care retreat where it covers everything, like you mentioned, fashion, gaining your confidence, um, being together amongst women. Oh wow, what motivated you to do this? Like, how did that inspire you to be involved with this project?
Well, again, and I didn't realize sort of the steps that one thing was going to lead to another, but I had this a group of women mastermind that we got together just to work on our businesses and make sure that we were having accountability for the shift that was happening this year. And what we realized, what each of us brought a different aspect that we speak to women about, and so we decided to do a speaking series, and then the idea of this book came about. So that's sort of the next thing that's on my plate for 2021.
Now, what would you say to someone watching this if they're going through it, like some issues, health issues at home, and career issues? What would you say to that woman to help her get through it? It's maybe she doesn't know about self-care. She doesn't know about how to get started with putting herself first and going to get massages or reading a good book or even jogging. She's not into it. What can that person do?
Well, first, I want to say that we are really moving into a different world in a sense. As we can see this year in particular, there's a lot more time for us to spend by ourselves. Um, it may not seem like sometimes women don't feel like they have downtime, but it's really important to take time for yourself and do what I call the inner work. So, self care doesn't have to be running or picking something that everyone else is doing, but you may not like to do. I think women have to explore what does feed them. If they were to take either a day by themselves or an hour by themselves, what would they like to do, or what could they do that helps them connect with themselves? It could be journaling, it could be knitting, it could be doing meditation, it could be even walking in nature, or one of my clients, she loves being with her horses. So it's some type of activity that feeds you and is not stimulating like social media or television or um, food or alcohol for some of us. And so it's something that really can feed you on a more spiritual level. And when women are having a hard time, I think that going inward, because we try to fix things on the outside, and I think we just need to give attention to the inside. And that's where the healing begins and the shifting of energy starts to happen.
Now, we know that Thanksgiving is next week. It's right around the corner. And of course, it is the wife, the mother, the woman herself who is planning everything for Thanksgiving. And being that it's going to be done differently this year because of COVID, unfortunately, what do you say to them? How do we deal with it? How do we make the change and making sure that we don't go insane around Thanksgiving, trying to manage it all, keeping it all in because you can't really be with your family the way you want to be with your family? So what do
Yeah.
you say to that group of women?
Well, again, that experience of this is something new, it's different this year. It may not be forever. I doubt it will. So this year, just use it as an experiment of doing things differently and notice what can you do that still can help feed you or nurture you, and doesn't it may usually be spending time with family, but perhaps it's just trying something different this year. And also, and I haven't said this yet, but really setting boundaries and knowing that sometimes saying no or choosing something different can actually be really healthy, because it just gives you a different experience to try. You can always change, you can always go back to something the way it was the next time, but just to experience it and know that if you may not be with your families, maybe having a smaller Thanksgiving, trying that and setting a different, doesn't have to be tradition, but just a different type of experience again can really, I think, start to expand your spirit and your energy and give you different perspectives.
Wow. Now, how can someone reach out to you? What information can you give them? How to contact you? If they have any questions once they see this, the show, my interview with you, how can they reach out to you? Is this like a simple email or find you on Facebook? What's your Facebook page?
Yeah, and I would mention Facebook because I'm most active there. So they can find my page, Kristi's Self Care Tribe, and that's an open group to join. You can also connect to me through Messenger, of course. I'm on LinkedIn as Christiana Hoffa Sullivan, and I also do a little bit on Instagram. I'll be doing more. I also have a website, which is christieselfcare.com or christyhsullivan.com. They both go to the same website. That just is a way for people to connect to me. You can email me from there.
Okay. Now, Kristi, as I always do to my special guests, I put you in a hot seat a little bit. I always ask before the show ends to share an important motivational quote that inspires you every day and that will certainly inspire other women who are watching this. So can you please share one of your favorite motivational quote?
Sure, and I'll stick with the self-care theme since we're talking about that. It's essential to make self-care a priority, not a reward. And I think that's important, that quote, because we come from this mindset of do a massage or do this when this happens for your birthday or for a gift. But I think the self-care we're talking about is creating something every day because it's essential. It's like the oxygen mask that you need to put on. So I hope women take that quote to heart.
That is a great quote, and I understand it. And it's how you mentioned the word reward, and how we as people are programmed in order to get a reward, got to do something good to get the reward. Okay, we can't do anything for ourselves until we complete a task. And you're saying, no, it doesn't have to be that way. It's essential to, give yourself self-care, treat yourself to a massage. It's essential. Don't wait till you do something great to take care of yourself.
Right. And again, that self-care can be anything that feeds you on a more spiritual level.
That's right.
So find it, and I think it's great for women to explore that and to share. If they come on your page and tell us what they did for their self-care, that would be great, or might be.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Kristi, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I look forward to joining your group and providing self-care for myself and sharing that also with my followers as well.
And thank you so much
And
for having me. And it was
and
great.
you enjoy your Thanksgiving. Let it be a nice, peaceful one.
You too, and all your listeners. Thanks so much.
Thank you.